This is a naturally aspirated engine that feels like it has a supercharger on it. Oh, that sounds really good. 1995 Mercedes-Benz SL500. What you're looking at is Mercedes-Benz at its absolute peak. This is Mercedes walking up to Lexus at Margarita's Cantina, dropping its Armani chinos, standing still for 8 terrifying seconds, while Blood and Emotion raises his radio telescope toward Vega. Thump, thump, thump. White lithium grease oozes from the lubrication channels. Thump, thump, thump. Everybody else in the restaurant is silent. Lexus is sitting there in their booth just looking at this display. Their eyes look left and right, unsure of what this all means. The server is holding a plate of tacos. Mercedes finally speaks. I still own this shit. I own the luxury car market. Drip, drip, drip. This episode of Regular Car Reviews is sponsored by Lasfit. And this is a fairly new Honda CR-V. And these are its floor mats that have just given up. This is like a 2022. And the floor mats are done. They don't even really cover that much. Lasfit solves that problem. Get these old ones out of here. Lasfits are bigger, wider, thicker, and what Lasfit does is they use 3D scanning technology to scan the floor, the footwells of modern cars. So their mats, they almost click in even if you're not using the hardware. They're easy to clean too. Just take them back out, spray them off, wipe them down. I personally like to use General GP Cleaner, it's honestly, use Fabuloso on like a 10-to-1 ratio. That stuff cleans perfectly anything. And if you got ground in dirt, especially on TPE material, which is what these are made out of, it comes right out immediately, and they're fresh and clean. They cover so much more of the floor than stock mats. They go under the seats, they go under the pedals. You can beat these things up, they're great. So click on the link in the description and use code AUGD1 to save money on the Lasfit website. Thank you so much, Lasfit, for sponsoring Regular Car Reviews. You guys are aces. Once again, that's use code AUGD1 and click the link on the description to save money on the Lasfit website. You don't know what you're getting into with your LS400, Mercedes says, flexing and thrusting with every word. Twitch, ooze, throb, twitch. My SL500 will crush you under my massive market presence. Slosh, sway, slosh. And finally, Lexus says, hey man, I'm just sitting here trying to make a reliable quality, but Mercedes interrupts. I will always surpass you. You're nothing, Lexus. Nothing. Nothing. No one will care. I rule, says Mercedes as he shuffles away, pants around his ankles, leaving a trail of Armor All and hydraulic fluid in his wake. This is a 2-seater convertible with a V8 and a complex hydraulic system. It was built for the 1980s finance bro to transition into the 1990s, but keep the get mine, screw yours, get a job, Bruce Hornsby in the Range style. SL500, brought to you by driving back to your high school reunion, parking right up front, and saying, hey man, we all started from the same tee. Some of us just worked harder. And then going into the bathroom and filming themselves peeing into the hand sanitizer. SL500, the official car of sneaking cocaine into a Chinese restaurant on Christmas Day. Mercedes-Benz SL500 convertible, brought to you by doing an Eiffel Tower with Peter Lynch and Nancy Pelosi in 1998. Now, in 2026, maintaining an SL500 is like maintaining a twin-engine piston aircraft. No matter how carefully you operate it, parts are going to fail in terrific ways, and you don't know when. You're not going to crash, it's not going to be a disaster, but one morning you're going to turn the key and you're going to find that your luxury vehicle just bought a double bass drum pedal and doesn't know how to use it. It's like sneakers in a dryer. And that means it's time to call a specialist and also spend 2 hours on hold with guest services at Breckenridge because you're either fixing your SL500 or you're going skiing, but not both. But when everything is functioning, at least drivetrain-wise, the SL500 is a driving experience that can't be replicated. The SL500 feels like a tank with Goku pushing it. It feels like a battleship that Godzilla is playing with in the bathtub. It feels like a Y-wing in non-canon specifications. I say on the fly that this V8 feels like it has a supercharger, but it doesn't. Okay, it's merge time. So, mile per gallon going down, as it should. Now, it certainly isn't a high... This is okay, so here it is. Here's the... This is a naturally aspirated engine that feels like it has a supercharger on it. The power is just not stopping. And I was only at, 3,500 RPM.
Yeah.
Do you think this can bury its speedometer at 160? I'm not gonna do it.
I don't think it'll make it to 160, but it'll get close.
Maybe it's limited 155.
Probably.
Yeah. Through the Sirius white on black instrument cluster, you monitor your vehicle's vitals and note the time of each system check. For you are a serious driver. You drive an SL500. You are a man in control. And if you're a woman, you'll grow a penis. I swear to God, it's in the manual. It says that. When I drove this car, it felt like I was taking the corpo life path. Speed laws don't apply to me because I have footage of the Attorney General doing that thing. Mercedes-Benz SL500. I work hard, so I can give my children everything I never had, all three of the things. If a Chevy Express van is for the man who comes home with rough hands so he can keep his wife in soft-touch Walmart linen, then the SL500 is for the man whose hands somehow get smoother when he works, clocking out after a long day of shaking hands with other risk-adjusted doomsday preppers and flipping through a Rolodex filled with women who think he'll leave his wife any day now. For every group of teenagers holding a benefit concert to save the local rec center, there's a yuppie in Park Avenue shoes and gold-toed dress socks who wants to pave paradise to put up a parking lot. And once the cement dries, they're going to park their SL500 with the nose facing out so the sun can shine down on this automotive equivalent of Frasier. A sophisticated product that's so far up its own ass, it hasn't needed a colonoscopy since 1995. Let's talk power. This has the 5-liter M119 V8 making 315 horsepower and 345 pound-feet of torque, matched to an automatic transmission that always starts in second gear when you put it in drive. Why? I don't know. You gotta try to make it start in first. You gotta lock it down in the first to make this thing sing. Top speed is a limited 155 and it goes from 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds. It's basically Mercedes rolling up to the luxury car summit and saying, "Knock, knock, who wants the fade?" Mercedes-Benz had been running the table for the luxury car market for more than a generation. But the arrival of Lexus showed that new brands were capable of challenging old money. Because it's one thing to have your back placed up against the wall by BMW, but it's another thing to have to deal with competition from a brand that doesn't even go to this school. Where's their Ivy League credentials? Where's their racing heritage? What business school did they go to? Whose father do they know? And what family did they marry into? Lexus just showed up. And it disrupted the luxury car system. And if the system can be disrupted that easily, then how strong of a grip did Mercedes really ever have on it, you know? So when the SL500 came out in 1989, the same year as the debut of the Lexus brand, the rise of Lexus caused Mercedes to take a more refined approach to the R129, to such an extent that some Mercedes enthusiasts consider this to be the apex of Mercedes' over-engineering period, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I consider it, even though I'm not a Mercedes guy, I look at this and saying, oh, yeah, They knew Lexus was coming, so they brought every bit of technology they could to this car. This was the first production convertible to integrate seat belts into the seat itself so that the seatbelt adjusts with the headset. And to do this, engineers had to compensate for the convertible's lack of a fixed B-pillar and a fixed roof, so that they used these reinforced heavy-duty magnesium alloy seat frames and stiffer pillars so that everything would stay where it needed to be in the event of a crash. But if you do get into a crash, a heavy-duty roll bar would pop up in 0.3 of a second. It was another one of those cutting-edge developments that made the R129 so notable, because it was safety that didn't compromise aesthetics. This is one of the most beautiful cars made in the 90s. It's so less is more. Even though this is a heavy convertible, you look at it, there's no fat on this. It still has this roadster style appearance without any of the roll bar drawbacks. It doesn't look like Little Red Riding Hood's basket fused with a pace car, although you could raise the roll bar, the little handle. It has a name, I'm not going to call it that. Manually, if you wanted to look like you were headed to the track. But the biggest drawback here is that Mercedes used old technology when it came to the roof. They used hydraulics, not electric motors. To them, it was known technology, but using hydraulics to raise the roof, that's like 1950s tech. There are so many seals and connectors, inevitably, the hydraulic system for the roof leaks, and this one leaks. Charles here carries around empty containers to catch the leaking hydraulic fluid so he can reuse it and pour it back into the reservoir underneath the spare tire. There's all these micro switches and a control module, and they're so sensitive, you think it was an unhinged tattoo going in for a color fill.
And right under here, see my fluid level is a little low.
Yeah.
That's min, that's max.
So technology hasn't changed since the 60s. My top on my Galaxy was also hydraulic.
Really?
And that thing was under the passenger seat in the back. So when that leaked, it leaks into the floor of the car.
It's every one of the SLs will leak hydraulic fluid eventually. And it's a multiple $1,000 job to get them fixed. There's 12 cylinders that all pump fluid.
12?
Yeah, it's very complicated. So there's 12 in total. They all go, I know there's 2 up here. There's like 6 in there. There's 2 for the roll bar specifically.
Wow.
And if you get unlucky, one will leak right on your head.
Oh, shit. So what we understand from the forums, this hydraulic system manages things via a series of binary controllers that all need to be satisfied in order for the hydraulics to work in the way they're supposed to. For example, is the roll bar locked? Yes or no. Is the front latch opened or closed? Yes or no. Is the hard top installed? Yes or no. So you'll read stories of owners who are suffering over one bad micro switch because the road to safety is paved with redundancy. And I wish the only issues were the hydraulics of this car. Mercedes, in a very green initiative, they had their hearts in the right place, but they used a biodegradable wiring harness. What? So it degrades, and then it causes issue. You get ground faults, you get shorts. Sometimes you turn the key and just nothing. So you got to try a few times and then it starts. Oh, and then there's this tape deck holder. So it's a neat idea. You take your tape cassettes out of the jewel case and then you place them in these, like a magazine here, that will pop up to spare you the indignity of taking your tape cassette out of the tape cassette case, because it's always already out, and then you can play your music. Sounds great, right? Well, this is a convertible, and this is a black piece of plastic, and this is outside, and it's going to get hot, and tape cassettes don't like to get hot. That's very thin magnetic tape in there and is susceptible to high heat. Your tape cassettes are going to get cooked like Belgian waffles, full of sweet syrup sewers. And on other days, crumbs and other things can get into this tape cassette magazine's inner workings. Not that you'd be eating in a Mercedes, but eventually, no matter what luxury car you have, it becomes your car. The SL500 started in the high 5 figures in 1995, and it could surpass 6 figures depending on what sort of options you got. But depreciation is a hell of a drug, so you're going to get into the mid-teens now in 2026 for an SL500. Although auction site data would suggest that models in excellent condition can get as high as $30,000. But for all its over-engineering and design, this was the car that Bruno Sacco described as the most perfect of all his designs. Yes, the Bruno Sacco, the legendary designer of the G-Wagon and the W124 E-Class. Yeah, I can see that, even as it's clearly not what it appears to be. And what I mean by that is while the SL stands for Sport Light, it's actually way heavier than it looks, with a curve weight hovering around 2 tons. And this is because, unlike you'd expect for a convertible, this was basically built more like a sedan. Yeah, it was stylish, and sure it was sporty, but it carried way more weight than some of its rivals, like the SC400 and the 911 Carrera. And hell, we'll throw the Corvette in there, why not? But buyers of the SL500 don't seem to care about its weight, because this car existed for the maintenance of identity as much as it did any other reason. Hell, Princess Diana landed in the royal doghouse in the early 90s when she traded her Jaguar XJS for an SL500 because the British royal family doesn't use foreign-made cars. I can't do a British accent, God help me if I ever try to do reserve pronunciation. But they made her give it back. Reputations need protecting after all. And that's the story of this car. Built to protect a reputation and advance it against people trying to come for its throne. By the time the Daimler-Benz merger happened in the 2000s, well, Mercedes was pretty much Buster Scruggs, going, well, you can't be top dog forever. It's like Taylor Swift releasing a new album variant anytime it looks like someone else is coming for the #1 spot. Or WWE counter-programming against competition and then claiming they aren't threatened. I don't know if Mercedes felt threatened by Lexus in the mid-90s, or if they were simply replanting their flag on firmer soil. But while the SL500 is good, it's also too expensive to be anything else. So its shortcomings feel more offensive, like a fancy restaurant charging mortgage prices for Play-Doh portion sizes. Except you actually are getting a mortgage-size experience with the SL500. You just have to be willing to take the deal with the headaches. This is going to go down as one of the best engineered cars in the world of history. It is not perfect. It is deeply flawed, but nothing else drives like this supersonic bomber. Even today, this thing looks like $1 million. It feels modern. It feels fearless. This is a classic car now that you can drive at 120 miles an hour and feel nothing. And for that, I deeply respect this vehicle.